Now, as you know, radio is my career. It's what puts food on the table and, provides for my children's education. Yet podcasting wants to take that away from me. And we all live in a world where podcasting has become a very natural part of all of our existence. And it is an incredibly good way to get information out. In fact, I'm going home after this to edit a podcast later on for the CIPD, which is one of the clients that we work with, and it's a good way of getting their information out. But the good people in Galway City Council have also decided that this is a good way that they can communicate directly with their audience and to talk us through what they have been doing with the Your Council podcast. Will you please welcome Arlene Finn. Arlene.
Go back to the start, sorry. That's no, that's the end. Oh, okay.
Right. Let's do a live podcast, says he, to try and get going. We might go and see, are they a little bit bonus come then? Should we go?
Are there any other? 9. Right, we're missing a few. Okay,
right.
Never mind. Right,
do you
okay,
have
we'll
any
just have to
songs
bluff
prepared?
Not a great singer. I suppose. Look, I can give you the overview anyway, and maybe I'll send the presentation on afterwards.
Yes.
And sure, we'll see what pops up, and we'll take it from there. So Galway City Council has a podcast. Sorry, Jonathan. And as it happens, we didn't set out to do a podcast. And you might wonder, why would you do a podcast? That wasn't where we started. We'd planned originally to do a show with local radio where they'd come into the local authority and our staff would engage them and would lift the lid and kind of meet our staff and see what service is about and so on. And this was an idea of our previous chief executive. And for me as comms officer, it was a good idea because I had done a staff needs survey to see what kind of training resources people needed in the organisation. And the most frequently requested training need was media training, because it is a difficult thing to do, but particularly we had a lot of pointed and slightly hostile media coverage that was going on at the time. So you didn't have people like dying to jump in front of a mic or be a media spokesperson. So this would have been a nice friendly way for people to engage with the media and a positive way of doing it. Now, after we had engaged a bit with the radio station about doing it, it wasn't coming to pass. I think they had a different artistic vision maybe, and truth be told, I think they thought we would be a bit boring. So we said, right, I went back to the chief executive and said, okay, we've got people lined up, they're willing to speak, we have something good here, so let's find a different way to do it. And as it happened, the LGMA had run the communications framework, so it was already procured. It had podcasts in there, because if I had to set out to do it, to be honest, I wouldn't have known what to ask for. So it was great that was there. And then I'll have to give the nod in the room to Jerry in Fingal, because I had done a training event where I'd heard about Fingal having the podcast, and it'd been a really useful tool for staff looking to do interviews and for recruitment. So the chief executive gave me the nod, and away we went. We have 25 podcasts or 25 episodes featuring staff across the organisation, and we were launched on Your Council Day in 2023. Oh, fantastic. Right, keep me on track. Nice. We'll see how many of them are there. What's going on? Yeah, pressing that. Oh, sorry. The other big green button. Yeah, okay, right. So there's a selection of some of the people who took part in the podcast. I'm just going to step forward so you can see my slides, sorry. So we started with 6 episodes, and really the rationale for that was how it was procured. It was procured where if you paid for 5, you got the 6th one free. And we knew, based on the interest in the radio programme, that we would get at least 12. But once we started rolling, we had great interest, and we got to 18 in Series 1. And I really wanted a mix of speakers, because the people who the public usually hear from are the directors of services, who are very polished in what to say and what not to say, and not getting caught out in things, and the chief executive. And then you might have roles like your EAO, who also might engage with the media, but the rest of the organisation you don't really hear from. And they really, I suppose, can respond and are hugely experienced people, but were just possibly not very keen to stand in front of that mic. So the podcast was going to be a mix of what the role is and how they came to be in it. And particularly because I would have known some of the people taking part, I kind of knew they'd have some interesting and funny stories that they could bring out if we put them in with the right questions. So as I said, we launched in summer 2023. on the advice of our podcast supplier, who is Fergal O'Keefe in Loom, who does podcasting on the GAA, sponsored by ESB Networks, I think, and he has a travel show and so on. So very experienced. On his advice, we were told go out every Tuesday morning. What he did for us was the interviewing, so recording them, doing the edits afterwards, and then publishing them on his channel. So what we had to do in advance of that recording happening, I'm including some of the detail in case some of you would like to do one and just want to know a little bit about what's involved. We obviously had to find our participants. We'd put them in touch with the interviewer. They did it themselves. We didn't sit in on them. So it's just two people having a chat, which was nice because it meant that they were comfortable, because Fergal is a lovely, gentle manner and is quite good at bringing things out in people. I always drafted the questions because Fergal wouldn't have been very familiar with the local authority and with the people he was interviewing and what maybe to ask them. Now that's also good because, like a member of the public, he's going to ask things that I mightn't think of, so there was a mix of it there, but I wanted to make sure that they pulled out the information that I wanted to see in the final edit. I also wrote the intro text, biography for the person. We'd get an image from them and we'd put that on the little tile, the image that you can see on the right there, and that would go then on the podcasting platform with each episode. We'd also do translations for our PR and our promotional text, and we'd do that little web tile in Canva and send it to Fergal. So we were releasing on a Tuesday. When we went out first, we probably had 3 or 4 episodes done. After that, it was the weekly scramble to get everything ready for every Tuesday. So on your Friday or your Monday before the episode was released, we would be checking our trailers and our episodes, just making sure the sound quality was okay, because it was recorded on Zoom. And we did have one colleague, for example, who had to leave the office, set them up with the mic, and a headset and a computer to do it, to make sure that the sound quality would be okay. So just to make sure that you didn't have levels as well, dipping between the intro and the outro and the actual interview itself, and just that edits were, clean and not clipped. We'd schedule our news story on our website. We'd upload it to the galwaycity.ie/podcast URL. We had streaming running there too, so our IT colleagues helped put that on. We'd do posts on social media, the intranet, alert counsellors, tell the media, tell staff, and so on. And then we periodically ran ads in the local media advertising the podcast. So when we had maybe 4 or 5 episodes to run, and we boosted posts on social media. And of course, we'd have to thank our participants. So I'm just going to play. It's going to jump ahead on the
here as an older woman, it was going to be so weird, not knowing as much. I felt I wouldn't know as much as the younger ones who would have gone through different courses in college and all that kind of thing. But I couldn't have been more wrong. I really didn't know much about what to do when I got in there, but luckily the staff in there just helped me out so much, and I was the oldest person in there. I think there was one older than me, but it turned out that stood me in good stead.
So just referring back to this being a recruitment tool, and local authorities are always hungry for people in film panels and so on. This is just 3 little snippets of some of my colleagues who took part. The lady you just heard from came back into work outside the home at 52 after a career of raising children, looking after foster children. And I had never actually met her or worked with her, but people kept telling me about this lady and how positive she was and how she'd be really good for something like this. And she did take part, and it was really positively received as well. You can just hear from that little snippet how welcome she found her colleagues when she came into the local authority. So really nice to hear from her. The other 2 clips who are here are Pat McPhilbin, who's in the litter management unit. He's nearly like celebrity litter management unit at this stage because he's been in the Irish Times, the Independent, in a video of ours and so on. And he's so enthusiastic and positive, and people really appreciate the work that he does. And he's a very visible face of Galway City Council because he's on the streets from 5 or 6 in the morning, as people are arriving into work. So hopefully he'll be the next one that plays.
I had a grow for nature from a young age, so I would take off into the head.
How many miles would I walk every day with that sweeper? And I have checked it, I've done it, 10 miles a day physically walking, every day. And when I go home in the evening, I want to put my legs up on the couch. It's the city I love so much. When I go over Wolftown Bridge and see that sunrise and the canals and all the narrow streets, I love that city so much. It's second to none. And I've been there since I was 11. I will finish there. The memories I will treasure for the rest of my days, the people that I've passed on and the people that's left. Galway City, what a fantastic, beautiful city to live in.
So couldn't get more positive. And then our third person here is Robert Steed, who's a craft gardener. And the reason I wanted to include him, well, he's a great talker and really interesting guy, but people wouldn't know you have craft gardeners in the local authority. So I might ask you to play in case I do something wrong.
I had a grow for nature from a young age, so I would take off into the hedgerows and, several miles later, this was my habitat, as it were, so I was always observing nature and nests and milling my way through the bog lands through around the village, the small ponds, exploring. I was always exploring nature. I really wanted to know and understand why. I was always asking my dad, why is the landscape like this? Why is this field like this? Why is that woodland only over there? Why isn't there more woodland? Why? I can imagine.
So that's just a snippet of our promos
you
of our
ask me-
colleagues. Oh, okay. Sorry, would you mind going back one for me? Thank you. That always happens. It plays all three. So I suppose after doing that and trying it, and you kind of see how did it go? So what feedback had we on the podcast? We ended up with 2 series in the end with 25 staff, and we've a couple of feature episodes which I'll just reference in a moment. We'd really positive feedback from the people who took part in it. They found it a really enjoyable experience sitting down with Fergal. It was a very controlled environment. If there was anything they didn't like or they want removed, we could take it out, so that they could he could ask a question, and if they could do it again. So there was no pressure. So you had people getting to try this and give an experience or give it a chance. We had really nice feedback from other staff who were listening to their colleagues, because it was featuring our staff in a positive way, and this was going out across channels instead of it being the usual the critique that would have been in some of the papers about what we were doing and what our staff were doing and so on, and it put faces to the council. We also won a Chambers Ireland Excellence in Local Government Award in 2024 for the podcast, which was lovely. Other feedback that we had was from the University of Galway. The station manager got in touch with me when we'd ran maybe about 6 or so episodes, and she said, geez, our staff and our students really need to hear this. Can we broadcast this? And I said, just do what you need, by all means, here you go. So it ran on Flirt FM, and it was a really nice opportunity to reach an audience that I wasn't going to get. They're not who are following us on Facebook, for example. So, and not on other channels either. So, right, we'll just keep going with 5 minutes. We'll guess what I had in the slides. But I asked the station manager for feedback on it, and she said, which I thought was wonderful, she said, here we go. The most common received was, I thought it might be boring, but it wasn't, which was resounding success from that audience. I was pleased with that. Nice to get to know people behind the scenes, didn't know that job existed. So hopefully some of those people will come and work in the local authority sector or engage with us or just know a bit more about us. One particular journalist who loves to hate us wrote in an article, the start and end of this article is entirely negative, but I just left that bit out. He said, the Communications Office has published a series of podcasts giving voice to its workers. Though it's essentially pure fluff, it is a great idea. And the podcast positively portrays people within the organisation and highlights what public service is all about. So again, pleased with that. It been NOAC, I suppose I have to give you numbers. So as of the start of the month, I was delighted to see, because we haven't really pushed this in a while, people are still downloading the podcast, and we're up to over 282,000 episodes. There's still been downloaded in recent months. Again, I think that might be a little bit to do with recruitment. It's also because Galway is possibly a small city, so people are kind of interested, they recognise people. Just the split, slightly more male. The age demographic is a demographic that where we would be recruiting and where we would be engaging and delivering services, well, we would across the board, but I don't know exactly why people are downloading, so I suppose I'm making estimates. Across a number of countries, partly maybe because I had promoted this on Facebook more widely than Ireland in the beginning, just testing it out and see how it go. I suppose learnings, one of the most important things for us is that it's evergreen content. It's something that you can promote now. We had a school warden take part, and then months later when we had a panel opening, we were able to use that episode again. Our episodes varied in length. That was because some people talked more, some people didn't. We were trialling this out. Some people, when you put a mic in front of them, they suddenly become very sparse on words. So look, it might have been better to have them the same length all along, but at the same time, it kind of worked where the people talked, we got lots of content, and we maybe just cut it down, say if they were saying personal things, because it is a work podcast, so you might take things like that out. You have to look after the sound quality, again, depending on how you're doing it. I know there are local authorities who've gone into sound booths and into proper recording studios, so that'll look after that. But if you are using Zoom or Spotify or any of those, just to make sure you have good mics and so on. There's definitely more opportunities for video, which we didn't take advantage of, but they are there. We could have done more with that. It is time consuming. Like, you can see all the level of bits and pieces, little things that tick along that you have to do to actually get it out on air. So you do have to plan for that, and you have to be available, a bit like a council meeting. You have to be available, you know, the Friday before to make sure the stuff is there for the Monday kind of thing. And on the hosting platform, our supplier hosts our episodes. Were I to do it again, I would have set up a Galway City Council channel so that we kind of retain ownership of it long term, and we can kind of do that on. Now, he's very obliging and does things for us, but I probably would have started with our own. And I mentioned the feature episodes. So we've an LGMA graduate working with us, and she's fantastic, and she's a journalism background. So she was interested in doing a couple of podcasts. So she has 2 underway. They have a totally different focus where they look more at services. She's finding that it is more time consuming because you have multiple people to interview and splice together instead of the one, but it was good to try it. We could have gone with other topics, and that might be something you guys might be interested in. For example, I would love to have gotten a social worker. We just didn't before. You also could do it more in services. I have a colleague who's interested in looking at opportunities for going through the affordable housing process, maybe on video, maybe on podcast. I suppose from a customer service point of view, it's a great way to introduce our staff to the public because they don't tend to know who's behind the scenes. And even for myself, there was one participant in it who I wouldn't really have known, and she did the recording and I listened to it, and it was such a lovely warm episode and so full about her and her history and her interest in public service. And it was that thing where she came into the office maybe a week later, you're kind of going to the person like, hi, like you know them, and then going, oh no, I don't. I just listened to the podcast. So it was really effective, that kind of getting to know people without, when you don't really, but still feeling like you get to know them. And the focus on staff was really valuable, I feel, because it was really positive coverage of our staff and what they're doing. So just to close, I'd just like to show you, still focus on that because I feel that's really important for us and it's our biggest asset, and the people who are in the local authority are so passionate and experienced. For your council day this year, we did a short video with people who had long service awards or 20 years service and got them just to speak a little bit about working in the local authority. And I might ask you to play if that's okay, just in case I press the wrong button again.
With Galway City Council, I'm 25 years.
2004.
In 1998.
November 2000.
It's 1999.
In excess of 30 years.
That was actually the time that the new urban renewal scheme started in Galway.
We got our town hall theatre, we got the black box. It brought art to the forefront of Galway City and what we stand for.
A lot of new people have started in the last 12 months. It's good, it's exciting times, I suppose.
It's very friendly, everyone is very welcoming, especially to new people, and that's how I felt when I came here as well.
I worked in the town hall theatre, I worked for all the festivals, that was amazing.
Volvo Ocean Race was a big highlight.
The Salmon Weir Bridge, yeah, that would be one of the highlights, yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest highlight for me, is that I know I've made changes to people's lives and society.
It's so important that we continue to have the bit of crack with colleagues and have engagement. It makes such a difference to life.
For me, working in local government is all about the people that you're helping.
We are building on that successes of what people before me have done.
There's great opportunities to engage with communities and make a difference.
What we're here is about is public service, to solve people's problems.
You just want to improve things for the city and its people.
So, Sinead, thanks.
Margaret, Darlene, thank you so much. Couple of things just to observe on that, right? Given that you're straying into my area, as they say here. First of all, the ghosts, I mentioned the 41 ghosts, clearly one of them is a ghost of traditional media that didn't like your presentation, so I apologise for that initially. The council, all of you, every one of you, is more seen as a problem than a fixer in your community because you keep your head down and you get the job done and you keep going and you plough on, and the public normally just sees, oh, it's done. Oh, that's not a thing anymore. And they don't give you credit, because one of the things that local authorities have been really bad at over the years is taking credit. Because you know who takes the credit for it? The elected reps. Who doesn't get the credit for it? Everyone who works in the council. And that's just the nature of the beast. And just by doing this, I just love the pain in your backside of a journalist, whoever he was, able to turn around and go, actually, do you know what? They seem like nice people after all. And it is a recruitment tool. It's everything a podcast should be. It's a recruitment tool. It lifts the lid. It explains everything that's going on. And whoever shot that video should be put forward for an award because it's really, really good. So well done. Thank you very much. Round of applause again for Arlene.